It's the middle of the night when a young boy is about to die, but he's also about to experience something extraordinary. Bradley Barrows is not feeling well. Day after day, he feels weak, tired, and has difficulty breathing. He has no reason to believe there's anything seriously wrong. Probably just a cold. But he's also not sleeping well due to his breathing problem, and yet he is reluctant to seek medical attention. So things get worse, and 2 weeks go by. He is feverish now and gasping for air. He understands something is terribly wrong. He really struggles to breathe, and he starts to panic. He has reasons to, because eventually breathing becomes impossible. At 8 years of age, Brad does not know that he has severe pneumonia. Brad is also blind. In fact, he was born blind. So it's no major surprise that he's in for the shock of his life, because what he doesn't yet know is that he is about to see for the first time. In his room at the Boston Center for Blind Children, Brad stops breathing altogether. And he dies. This is when things get interesting, because what is about to happen is impossible. Not just because he's about to leave his body, or even because he's about to experience what it's like to see. These things are incredible enough, but because his visual experience cannot be explained at all, there's simply no scientific explanation for it. And I'll tell you why in a moment. Brad is surprised to see his own body lying lifelessly on the bed. There are so many things wrong with that statement, right? First of all, this means he would have to be outside of his body. Then it would also have to mean that his vision somehow just came on as abruptly as flipping a switch. Note that I said came on and not came back on, because until now, he has never seen anything whatsoever. As he floats toward the ceiling, he sees his roommate leave the room. This was not his imagination, because it was confirmed later. The roommate knew Brad was in trouble and rushed out to seek help. He continues to rise, now through the ceiling, up through another floor where he sees someone else occupying a bed, and finally through the roof. He floats away, aware, to his amazement, that he can see the entire sky. It's cloudy and dark, and underneath him, a world stretches that is already buzzing with life. He sees, in incredible detail, the snow on the ground, the traffic near the building he just left, the cars that recede as he continues to rise, the tram that carves out a snowbank as it plows through to carry its passengers, with a clear sign on it stating the direction it is taking. He sees even the tracks the tram leaves behind, the playground on which he and his friends from school had played, and the hill nearby they used to climb. Imagine acquiring a sixth sense out of the blue. It would have to be mind-blowing. In his own words, I knew I was experiencing a sense I never experienced before. Well, that's a lot to take in already, and there's more coming, and things get even more incredible. But before I move on to what happens next, I'd like to address a couple of things for the skeptics. Some argue that Brad's experience is not valid because he could have identified what he thought he saw simply through the sense of hearing. So when you hear traffic outside and your mind dreams up a scene, you can imagine you're seeing cars. There are two problems with that objection. First, Brad says he could hear some of the traffic at times, but he could see that traffic so clearly without hearing it. He could clearly separate seeing from hearing. And that was a very strange feeling for him. But now consider the other things he sees, not just the tram, which obviously makes a sound, but the tracks it leaves behind, the sign on it that tells of its direction, the snow embankment it creates, the playground, the hill he had climbed up, the cloudy gray sky. None of these things make sound, and yet he sees them all. He also says that he could see different shades of light constantly moving with the cars. I take that to mean that he saw the car's headlights and backlights Car headlights and backlights also do not make sounds. Second, none of this even matters because the real kicker is that there is no way his brain could have created a visual scene of any kind, imagined or otherwise. My early training in scientific research spanned 8 years, focusing on the development of our ability to see in the brain. So I can tell you that in order for someone to be able to see later in life, the eyes and brain as an infant must have been able to receive and be stimulated by light from the environment in all of its complexities, forms, colors, distance, movement, and so on. If a person becomes blind later in life, it's a different story because the brain's visual system is already in place. But if the person is already blind at or near birth, the brain never has a chance to develop the ability to see because that brain was never taught how to see. This includes visual hallucinations, dreams, imagination, and so on. Visual images are simply something that is completely foreign to the brain at this point. And any person born blind will tell you they don't see in their dreams, can never bring up a visual image, or can even imagine what it's like to see. It's like watering a plant. If you do it early on, it grows healthily. It needs that early nurturing and care. If you wait until the plant is already dried up and dead, no water will ever make it grow. A dead plant is a dead plant. A person who has not seen light early on is a person whose brain cannot create any visual image. Period. So what does this mean for Bradley Barrows? He was born blind, so he should not have seen anything, either in reality, in fantasy, in dreams, imagination, or hallucination. And that is what sends chills down my spine. So now Brad has the typical experience of an NDE. He goes through a tunnel. When he comes out on the other side, he meets a very steep meadow with very tall trees. The grass there is greener than green, lush, and like the trees and its giant leaves, glows with its own light. His story gets even stranger, but like the cars, snow and tram that Brad saw, not to mention his own body and his roommate rushing out of the room, one could rightfully ask, how in the world did he know that what he was seeing was called grass? How did he know that the tall structures were called trees, etc.? Brad is perfectly aware of this and asks himself the same question. So this is a labeling problem. He shouldn't have been able to recognize something he has never seen before and put the correct words to it. But I think I may have an answer for that. At least I'll propose it, based on numerous NDE reports. It has to do with how, deep down, we may already know everything there is to know. One of the characteristics of NDEs is that for a normally sighted individual, seeing during this experience is not the same as seeing while in the body. For one thing, it is not restricted to just seeing what is in front of you, but involves a 360-degree view of everything and includes colors that are much more vivid or even never seen before. As I explained in another video that I link to in the description below, you do not die. 5 reasons near-death experiences are real. NDE reports are consistent with exactly what you would experience if your consciousness, or spirit if you prefer that word, was freed from the limiting constraints of the brain. If this is what actually happens, when still within the body, consciousness could only experience a dimmed down, very narrow version of reality, but would experience it in full when brain activity is removed at death. And that means a full understanding of reality and everything in it when the body dies, a common observation made by experiencers. This feeling of instant and infinite knowing may come from becoming one with everything, merging back into our source, something that has also been reported. I am not religious, but I think that searching for the truth requires honesty, banishing personal opinions and biases, and a willingness to take into account all evidence, not just the ones that fit our worldview. And yes, the incredible number of NDEs that consistently report the exact same experience is evidence. Vicky Umipek, for example, whom I cover in another video, was also blind from birth and saw during her NDE. These experiences have no scientific explanation. Now, Brad walks up that hill and sees a light that is so bright and full of compassion that he is bathed in it. He, in fact, emits his own light. He finally sees the archway of a building structure, beautiful in all of its colors and so full of light, it seems to be burning with its own heat. Beyond that, he hears music, a lot of voices, but just out of reach. Under the archway, a tall entity welcomes him. He is told, however, not in words, but in thoughts, that he couldn't stay and must go back to fulfill his mission on Earth. And with that, he is thrown back into his body and is welcomed by nurses. They had just done CPR on him. His heart, he is told, had stopped beating for at least 4 minutes. My name is Rick from Psychology of the Strange. And as always, I hope to see you soon.